Introduction: a royal shake-up in British politics? Imagine this. The dust has barely settled from a historic UK election, and Sir Keir Starmer, the newly elected Prime Minister, is getting ready to implement his vision for the country. But just as he begins his tenure, a dramatic twist emerges, one that could change everything. Rumors are swirling that King Charles III, Britain's head of state, might take an unexpected step that could significantly impact Starmer's government. But what exactly is happening? Could the monarchy, which traditionally stays neutral, be about to influence British politics in a way we haven't seen in decades? And if so, what does this mean for Starmer, his policies, and the UK's future? Let's break it all down in today's deep dive. The tradition: monarchy versus government. To understand why this is such a big deal, we need to quickly revisit the relationship between the British monarchy and the government. Traditionally, the monarchy plays a symbolic role in the UK's constitutional system. The king gives the official approval for laws, opens parliament, and meets regularly with the Prime Minister. However, these are mostly formalities. British monarchs are expected to remain politically neutral. But King Charles III is not just any monarch. Before ascending the throne, he was known for his outspoken views on climate change, architecture, and social issues. Unlike his mother, the late Queen Elizabeth II, who remained strictly neutral, Charles has a long history of advocacy. This raises a burning question. Now that he's king, will he stay in the background, or could he decide to be a more active and influential ruler? And this is where things get interesting for Keir Starmer. The King's Speech and Policy Influence. One of the key moments in any new UK government is the King's Speech, an annual event where the monarch reads a speech outlining the government's priorities for the upcoming year. The speech itself is written by the Prime Minister and his team, but it's read by the King in Parliament. Now, normally, this is just a procedural step. However, there's growing speculation that King Charles might use his role to subtly express his opinions, especially on issues like the environment, housing, and social justice, areas where Starmer has ambitious plans. For instance, if Starmer's government softens its stance on climate policies in favor of economic growth, could King Charles subtly push back in his speech? He wouldn't outright oppose the government, but even a carefully worded remark about the importance of sustainability could create political waves. And if the king starts making his stance clear, could it embolden opposition parties or pressure Starmer to adjust his policies? Behind closed doors, the private weekly meetings. Another potential game-changer is the weekly private audience between the Prime Minister and the king. These meetings are completely confidential, meaning no one knows exactly what is discussed. However, if Charles strongly believes in a cause, could he use these meetings to nudge Starmer in a certain direction? While Starmer has shown himself to be pragmatic and strategic, dealing with an engaged and opinionated monarch could present a unique challenge. Will he stand firm on his policies, or will he feel the pressure to accommodate some of Charles's interests? Some political analysts believe Charles might try to influence areas like education, urban development, and even foreign relations, topics he has spoken passionately about in the past. Others argue that Starmer, as a seasoned lawyer and politician, will make sure to keep the king's influence within ceremonial limits. But here's where things take a surprising turn. Could Charles spark a constitutional debate? One of the most intriguing possibilities is that King Charles's involvement could reignite discussions about the future of the monarchy itself. In recent years, Republican sentiment, the idea of replacing the monarchy with an elected head of state, has been growing, particularly among younger generations. If Charles is perceived as overstepping his role, even subtly, it could fuel debates about whether the monarchy is still relevant in modern Britain. Starmer, who has carefully avoided strong positions on the monarchy, might find himself caught in the middle of a public debate he never intended to have. Would he support keeping the monarchy as it is? Would he introduce reforms to limit the king's influence even further? Or could this be the moment when Britain seriously considers moving toward a republic? While this may seem unlikely, history has shown that small political shifts can lead to major constitutional changes over time. Public reaction: a nation divided? Of course, all of this depends on how the public reacts. For many Brits, Charles's involvement would be seen as a positive thing. After all, he has been a lifelong advocate for causes like climate action, urban renewal, and social justice. Some may even welcome a king who takes a more active interest in government affairs. But others, especially those who value strict political neutrality from the monarchy, could see this as a dangerous precedent. The monarchy's survival largely depends on its ability to stay above politics. If Charles is perceived as meddling, it could weaken public support for the institution. And let's not forget the press. The British media loves a royal controversy, and if tensions arise between Charles and Starmer, expect the headlines to explode with speculation, drama, and possibly even political fallout. Conclusion: a defining moment for Starmer and the monarchy? So, is King Charles about to change everything for Keir Starmer? While the king doesn't have direct political power, his influence, his speeches, and even his mere presence in political discussions could shape public discourse in ways we haven't seen in years. For Starmer, navigating this dynamic will require skill, diplomacy, and a firm grasp of Britain's constitutional boundaries. Will he find a way to work smoothly with Charles? Or could this turn into a subtle power struggle that shakes up British politics? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain. The relationship between the king and the prime minister will be one to watch closely in the coming months. What do you think? Should King Charles have a more active role in government, or should he remain neutral? Let's discuss in the comments below.